my parents are still in a band, and they gave me a guitar when I was 13. But before that, I was singing before I could really form sentences as a kid, because my mom was a singer and my dad was a guitarist. So I had some sort of like melodic element to myself, I guess. And then I was always just a music nerd. I would always listen to so many things. My parents were more into like classic rock and country and stuff. I grew up in Canada, so I'm a farm kid. I literally grew up on the farm and like worked stables and all that shit. And then we moved to the States. And when I moved to the States, right before I moved to the States, my first friends that I can remember growing up were Jamaican kids, and their music like reggae and dancehall and Afrobeat and everything like that. And so I had this really strange blend of like that. And then I moved to the States. It was like at 9, I think. I just learned all about American pop culture and hip hop and rap and jazz and blues and real rock and like all these different types of music. And then as I got older and like went to public school and just like met kids and like was no longer really a Canadian in my mind, I was more like Americanized because of musicality, you know? And my mom kind of tapped into and saw that I was super interested and got me a guitar. Like a Fender Squire, like the shittiest one you can get that everyone gets their kids. And I kind of just got the bug, and I started a band. I was in punk and metal bands, but I was always playing hip hop and rap, and I was always just like interested in jazz. And so I didn't really appreciate it yet, but it kind of like created this like melodic structure in my brain, like from metal and punk and thrash, like really fast chord progressions and really fast elements. And then jazz was the same thing, but just like sexier and easier to listen to. And then I went to college after, experiencing all this stuff. And I got Ableton free. I think it was Ableton 4 or Ableton 5 Lite edition. And that just changed everything for me. I didn't go from GarageBand to Logic or anything else. It was just like instruments to like cutting my own records. I worked in, I cut my own record when I was 17, wrote all the parts, guitar, bass, drums, hired all my friends that were better musicians than me to do it because I self-taught all my instruments, but I can't really hold my own when it comes to just like improvising. I can play everything a little bit. It's all kind of up here, but I had all my friends around me to like play out the parts in my head. And so we all wrote a collective record. And then that kind of structure and that kind of like 360 like outside view helped me realize that I need to put all of that into something else. And then someone was like, you should try computer production. And I was 18 years old and I got Ableton, and it was just like a wrap, it was kind of just like a video game for me. And then I attempted to DJ with it. I think I was the worst for like 3 years, but I always had like, I knew I could, I knew I could beat match. I knew I could have rhythm, but I just was so excited that I would just like play everything. And then I really started fucking around with, turntables and just like trying different forms of blending music and beats, because I was already doing it with styles on like instruments and with my computer. And then over time, like that progressed into full on like, Ableton production wizardry from like tutorials and friends. Tutorials weren't really around back then. I'm 32 now. So that was like in 2000, like 6 to 7 when I started. So it wasn't like you couldn't find everything you could now on YouTube like you can now. Like you don't even need any musical talent at all. You can just sign on YouTube and you're good. And then I kind of just figured it out over the course of the last decade, pretty much. Like I don't really have an answer as to when one thing started. It was kind of just like figuring it out along the way, listening to things and just like studying them and figuring out how to get there. And then that kind of led me to engineering school when I moved to New York when I was 26. I interned at a couple studios and learned all about like the more mathematical and professional side of engineering because that was just kind of like, the bedroom rat. And in between that, I got much better at DJing and actually toured for like 4 years, played massive festivals, but I was always on Ableton. I wasn't on turntables or CDJs. I was using a computer and a MIDI controller and a keyboard and like a sequencer and like doing way too much. And I play like 80% original music for the last part of it, but the first was just all playing stuff I liked. And then, over time, you can't really just bring all that gear everywhere. So then I learned CDJs, and then CDJs led me to really cultivate that skill, because that's like real practice. Because I wanted to be as good as I was with all my instruments and my controllers as I could be with transitions and CDJs, because I would mix like acapellas into like 2 or 3 beats that are playing at the same time and just like make it super interactive and, you know, just interesting and different each set. And I wanted to make sure that I was good enough with that I could bring that over to CDJs immediately and like do like 3 or 4 CDJs and whatever. So that took like a year or two to really get better at that. And then after engineering school, which I needed, but I didn't, it was more of like the foot in the door, but I kind of knew everything, but I still needed to know. I don't mean to say that like I knew my shit, like I wasn't like the GOAT or anything. I just knew enough that I didn't really need to like sit and learn it again. I just need to learn better methods that I already had an idea of doing. And I don't know where that came from. It kind of just, I don't know. It's kind of just happened. I think a lot of it has to do with just being around music my whole life, that it kind of tunes your brain. That's the only thing I can really explain.